Welcome to Interviews from Mexico. I'm Laura Carlson, and I'll be your host as we look at cutting-edge issues with the men and women who know them best. Here on Telesur. On this show, we often talk about the problems and the challenges that Mexico faces. Today's show is a little different. Here we'll be talking about the beauty and the creativity that Mexico offers the world through its traditional music. Our guest has crossed borders to learn and listen and then create traditional Mexican music. Anna Arismendez was born in Austin, Texas, and she moved to Mexico to follow the music. Now she's a member of the group Caña Dulce y Caña Bravo, women singing son jarocho from the state of Veracruz. Anna, thanks so much for being here. It's really a pleasure.
Thank you for the invitation.
Anna, tell us, how did you get introduced to son jarocho in Austin, Texas?
Well, at that time, I was living very nearby a cultural center that had all kinds of classes. And I loved to dance, all different types of dance. And I was taking tango classes, you know, tango from Argentina. And one day I was leaving the class, and in walked a group of people with tarimas and what I think I called in that moment guitarritas, you know, asking them, what kind of music do you guys play? And they invited me to the workshop. Long story short, I left tango way behind and I became addicted to son jarocho.
And is there a lot of son jarocho in Austin? You know, you usually think of, if you think of Mexican music at all, you think of Tex-Mex or mariachis,
right?
Right.
Right. You know, I think the community in Texas has kind of an ebb and flow. There are times when it's really big. There are times when it's smaller. But there are a few people who continue playing, definitely.
You know, I've heard that there are networks of soneros in other cities as well, that actually it's kind of an underground community in the United States, in cities like New York and others. How do you explain the appeal of this music among the migrant community?
I mean, first of all, if you hear the music, it's very moving. You know, the rhythm is addictive. You know, it has this element that kind of, at least, you know, when you're in a fandango or when you're listening to a recording that has that same power and punch that you hear in the rancho, it just draws you to hear more and to listen more. And I think that in a lot of migrant communities, it's, even if you're not from Veracruz, it's something that, it's a community-based music. It's a music that unites people. So there you have an opportunity to unite with other people, whether they be from your community or from your culture, or just because of the interest. You know.
So it becomes not just a musical forum, but a social forum.
Completely. And actually, son jarocho in the United States, in many cases, is used as a tool in social justice. You know, when you're in protest or in different types of meetings, son jarocho is one of the tools I've seen in various areas, and that's actually how it came to Texas. Some of the people in Texas who were working with the CIW encountered the people from Santa Ana who were playing son jarocho and using it in that environment.
In farm worker protests.
Exactly, and they brought it down to Texas, and that's how it got spread. You know, and you see that same model, if you will, in Chicago and in Philly and in LA, in the Bay Area, in California, in Washington, D.C., in many other places.
Well, let's tell the audience a little bit more about this kind of music. What was it about the lyrics or the structure of the music that appealed so much to you and that makes it so distinctive?
You know, I think initially it's a music that's very, very accessible. You know, I grew up playing other types of music, guitar, violin, trombone, when I was younger, and then I kind of left it behind unintentionally, but it happens when you get busy and you start working, and you know. And I found this on, and it was really easy to pick up a jarana and start playing music again. So again, initially it seems very simple, but once you really dive into it, you realize it's super complicated, and it has so many different elements that really that complicated sound, that multifaceted sound is really what hooks you.
And there's a lot of improvisation.
There's a lot of improvisation, not only with the versada or the verses that we're singing, but also on the instruments. So yes, the jarana has a structure, but there's improvisation as far as what maybe kinds of rasgueos or the strums that you use. With the zapateado, there's a base, there's a foundational rhythm, but you have element or you have the license to kind of play, and that's one of the ways you participate. Or in the instruments that we play, that Alex or myself play, the requinto or the guitarra, there's figuras that what we call declarar los sones, they declare the sones, but then from there it's a lot of improvisation.
And the lyrics themselves, I think that's one of the reasons it has so many distinct regional variations, because the lyrics talk about where you are in that moment or what you're feeling in that moment.
Definitely. I mean, there's a lots of old traditional versos that we even see some of those coming from the Spanish or Baroque tradition. That is one element that is involved in creating this son jarocho. But then we have verses that are improvised in the moment, or we have verses that are written for a special occasion, or talk about the nature where you are, or talk about how you're feeling in the moment.
And a lot of it has been from a man's point of view, the traditional son. And Caña Dulce y Caña Brava is mostly women, was founded by women who came up in a son tradition. Does that make the music or the lyrics any different, do you think?
Absolutely, and it is something that Adriana and Raquel, the two founders, really strive to do intentionally. They both grew up in Veracruz. Adriana Cao Romero grew up in El Puerto de Veracruz, or Veracruz, Veracruz City, where Raquel grew up in a small, rancheria, San Miguel, La Boca de San Miguel, or La Boca del Barco, which is a small ranch near Tlacotalpan. And so both of them grew up with this music all their lives. And they were very accustomed to, at that time, it was mostly men who were playing instruments or who were singing. Women have always been present in the fandangos, dancing, sometimes singing, or of course it's important that with any party there needs to be food, right? So the cocineras, the cooks, the women who are preparing the food have always been an essential element in the traditional party, in the fandango. But back then it was not that common for a woman to be playing an instrument. So that's really where Adriana and Raquel were among maybe the small percentage of women that started to do that.
And I want to tell the audience that we'll have the pleasure of welcoming Adriana and Raquel and other members of Caña Dulce y Caña Brava here on the set for a live performance following the interview. Does that, do you think, make the message any different?
Definitely. The idea is that the verses are from the perspective of a woman.
Yeah.
So we're very accustomed to being on the tarima and for men to be singing to us, which is great. It's nice as well. But so now you're having verses that are written by women, written from the perspective of a woman, talking about our experiences, our feelings.
And it used to be, it seems like, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that the son jarocho was known in Veracruz, where it has its roots, where it came from and everything, but not so much in the rest of the country, let alone the rest of the world. Are we seeing a rebirth of this music? Are we seeing an expansion of the audience for this music? What's the reception been to your group?
It's definitely become more popular in the last few years. The group's been around for 10 years. Adriana and Raquel started it in 2008. And absolutely, the group has received lots of support, not only from people locally in Mexico and in Veracruz and in Mexico City, but also in the United States, where we see, again, there's much movement there. They've gone to many countries, internationally, in Europe, in Asia, I don't think they've gone to Africa yet. I joined the group later, so I know that when Adriana comes, we might have to ask her.
So it has that universal appeal if
Absolutely.
you're talking about continents all over the world.
Absolutely.
There's a fascinating thing to see too is that with this rebirth, it seems that there are more younger people getting involved. You know, there's a concern at some point that some of these traditions, musical traditions, Mexico and abroad that are getting more involved in son, which might be contrary to what people would think about traditional music.
Sure,
Do you see
sure.
this?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I will say there maybe was a time that younger people weren't getting as involved, but with this resurgence, or maybe with this strength and this, it's almost like a storm that is started brewing slowly but surely, and then it's just grown and grown and grown. And there's lots of very young, very talented musicians, some in Veracruz, some in different parts of the world, who are playing this type of music.
What's it been like for you personally to grow up in Texas, to become familiar with this music and learn it there, and then to come to Mexico? How did you begin the learning process here in Mexico?
Well, you know, I initially came to Mexico with the thought of traveling for a year, taking a little bit of a sabbatical, if you will. And I brought my jarana, but my intention was not to stay in Mexico forever and and stay in Veracruz. It was more to travel all around the country. But I went to Veracruz initially, and I didn't leave for quite some time.
How long did you stay in Veracruz?
Well, you know, I was living in Acayucan, Veracruz for a while, and then aside from that, I was traveling around Los Tuxtlas and, you know, the Llano areas. But the south of Veracruz, I probably was there for 2.5, 3 years before I really came to Mexico City and more stabilize myself here.
Did you find a teacher there in southern Veracruz?
A teacher, no. I found many teachers. You know, what I am very grateful for is that the people who are playing this music there are very generous with their knowledge, and they're excited to be playing, and they're excited to share it. I think what is important is that, you know, it's a here comes that Spanglish, the convivio. You know, it's important that it really be an experience, not just of teacher and student, and I'm just coming to learn from you, but you begin to develop a friendship and a relationship, and those friendships and relationships are something that grow and expand. And as the years have passed, it's important to me to always, you know, go back to Veracruz. Sadly, I don't get to go back as often as I would like lately, you know, but to see those teachers, you know, and those friends.
Were they surprised that this tradition, that you'd come to know this tradition in Texas and that you'd come down to Mexico to learn more about it?
I think somewhat, but I'm not the first one to come from other areas, you know. So they're like, "Oh, wow, you're here from Texas. What are you doing here?" When, you know, Texas is beautiful from what we hear.
Reverse migration.
Right. And I think, yes, absolutely. But there are people who come from France. There are people who come from Japan, from the States.
Oh, really?
You know, yeah.
To learn, especially in
definitely the son, or to attend the fandangos, or actually the other night at the concert that we just gave in El Foro del Tejedor, there were two attendees that are coming from Japan, and they were telling me after the show, we have a small community, and we're starting to have a group that plays on jarocho in Japan, in Tokyo.
Oh, really? They're starting to play it there. That's great. So what kind of a message do you think this music sends about Mexico? You know, we're living in a time now when most of the images, especially if you're in the United States, of Mexico are negative.
Sure.
How do you think music can counteract that?
I think music heals, you know. I think music unites, and I think music also is a platform with which you can send a message if you care to do so. And just like this music is a community music, this is a way that, at least me personally, I've been so fortunate to be able to meet people all over Mexico and all over the United States.
Does your family have Mexican roots?
Absolutely.
Where are they from?
My grandparents, my 4 grandparents were from Mexico, but they were norteños, you know, from Chihuahua and from Nuevo León. Actually, my family sometimes laughs and they say, "Why are you playing music from the South? Like, you should have a bajo sexto or something." And I'm like, yes, I have a bajo sexto and I want to play it more, but I'm so addicted to this music that there's not enough time. Definitely. But I mean, you know, if I hear an accordion, I want to dance because those are my roots, the Tejano music and the music from the border.
Will that be part of it in terms of the appeal in the United States too, that sense of identity and pride in roots. And we're seeing it really grow quite fast. As Caña Dulce y Caña Brava, where would you like to take this music? What are your dreams in terms of son and the world?
That's a great question. You know, the rest of the group might have additional answers, but I think for us, our dream is to be able to share this music anywhere that the door is open for us. You know, we've been very fortunate that people have heard our music and they say, oh, we want you to come, you know, to where we are. You know, whether it's in the States. You know, we just recently went to San Francisco and the Bay Area. And that was beautiful. And there's a community of soneros, you know, or fandangueros. And that was beautiful for us. And that was really something that was the initiative of the community, the son community there. But then we've also been lucky where, you know, someone who works for Cultura here in Mexico says, oh, I love the sound. We need to take you to other places. And we've been fortunate on that end as well.
So the group has put out a CD.
Yes.
And then and has concerts not only in Mexico but throughout the world.
Exactly. So there was a CD recorded 3 years ago, and we're excited that we just came out of the studio recently to start the recording of the second CD.
Oh, great! Congratulations.
Yeah.
What kind of songs will be on it?
Well, the sones that will be there you know, they're all traditional sones, but we definitely try to put our own little twist on it, if you will. And there'll be sones that are, you know, more lyrical, more slow. There's others that are just, I'll say, puro punch, you know, o sea, very, very moving, very energized, very electric.
Like what kind of stories do they tell?
Well, one of my favorites is El Toro Sacamandú. And so there, you know, El Toro Sacamandú really talks about life in el rancho, you know, with the cows and the toros, the bulls. And obviously the bull is an animal that we think of being very strong. And I mean, it is. It's a presence. You know, you feel it when you're close to one. And so there you hear verses that Raquel and Adriana sing that have to do with that, but also from a perspective of a woman. So I won't spoil it. You have to listen to the CD.
Okay. Everyone, you have to listen to the CD. Great. Well, has it been difficult in any way to break into the music world, both as a women's group and as a traditional music group?
I think, you know, sometimes as an all-women's group, sometimes it gives you more attention from certain people because they find it's something different. It's something less common. These days, we're starting to see other groups emerge that also are all women. But you know, 10 years ago, it was nothing common. So definitely it maybe calls some attention. But, you know, unfortunately, as is the case in life in general, when you call attention, it's not always positive. Sometimes there's also the other end. And you know.
Have there been criticisms for being women singing son?
You know, I think, I don't know if I want to use the word criticism, but I think, you know, sometimes maybe the word is that, you know, it's maybe too soft sounding, or it's, you know, it's lacking I'm not sure what word to use there, but the
masculinity.
Well, no, not masculinity, but just, you know, that I want to say like punch, you know, that swing. And so I think as time has passed, you know, the group has also grown. Initially, you know, it was just Adriana and Raquel. Then, you know, there was a trio for a little while. Right now, we're operating with 5 people. And, you know, we have different musical instruments that provide different elements as well. And we also have, you know, Alejandro Ramirez, who is in the group, playing requinto and also jarana de arco. But aside from that, he really helps us with the musical direction as well. And he's got some really great ideas as far as, you know, what are some ways that we can make this song, you know, our own, if you will.
Well, it's absolutely beautiful the way that there's that strong tradition that's being preserved. And then there's the evolution of the music in women's voices with new lyrics, with new musical ideas, and all that can be combined into something that's both old and new and ends up having this tremendous universal appeal.
Definitely.
Well, Anna Arismendez, this is the end of the program. We're going to go now to our musical interlude. And thank you so much for being with us.
Thank
here.
you very much.
And now we've been talking about music, it's time to hear some. It's my pleasure to introduce the group Caña Dulce y Caña Brava. The members of the group are Alejandro Loredo on requinto, Raquel Palacios on jarana and vocals, Adriana Cao Romero on harp and vocals, and also a co-founder of the group, and Anna Arismendez on leona.
Vengo a brindarte el calor del campo como una alfombra, del campo como una alfombra, vengo a brindarte el calor. Y la perfumada sombra de los naranjos en flor, de los naranjos en flor y la perfumada sombra. Ariles y más ariles que se mecen en el mar, en las olas un silencio que dejaste en tu lugar. Cuando en tu alma se despierte el deseo de navegar, el deseo de navegar. Cuando en tu alma se despierte, cuando en tu alma se despierte el deseo de navegar, el deseo de navegar. Cuando en tu alma se despierte, mira firme, rema fuerte y decidido a pescar, confiado en tu buena suerte, lanza tus redes al mar. Mira firme, rema fuerte y decidido a pescar, de campo y son, paisaje entre la alborada, esos somos y esos son, caña dulce y caña brava, caña dulce y caña brava. Ay, la, la. Me despide como el río que corre por San Miguel, abonando el caserío para cosechar la miel con el sabor del bajío, con el sabor del bajío.